Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. All right. Well, welcome to the Flagstick Podcast. I'm Jeff Potter. He is Froggy Scott McLeod.
I am.
Flagstick Podcast is sponsored once again this week by TaylorMade Golf, introducing the all-new QI 35 drivers, TaylorMade speed, max forgiveness, and a new level of fitting to give you more distance from the face. Get QI 35 fit today and unlock another level for your game at tailormadegolf.ca. Let's make sure you're following us across social media networks. You know the drill: Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Please subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And we really do encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us, and click the notification bell. Make sure you never miss a single episode. Lots of good stuff coming on the YouTube channel, so you might want to subscribe. It's just a hint. Call it a hint. Well, this week, with a week off, I do apologize. Family matters had to be attended to. I needed to take a little week break, but I'm back and I'm ready to get back at it. So we got a few things to kind of go, I guess, back on. But this week we're going to welcome Jodie Jenkins of Endless Summer, Canada's only world-long drive event, to talk about his event down in the Belleville area. Scott did a little interview with him. We're going to play that for you in the back nine, and we're going to discuss the RBC Canadian Open and the Canadians in the field, and a bunch more stuff. Because when you miss a week, that means you got 2 weeks worth of stuff to talk about. So,
and this time of year is just nuts. I mean, it's just crazy as far as how many different things, even tracking like some qualifiers and stuff this past week, even, not feeling 100%, but still trying to keep a track of everything. And it seemed like every time you turn around, there's another junior event, another qualifier, leading up to obviously there's a lot this time of year. It is
coming to getting to be the silly season at this point.
It is.
So let's get on our front nine, and then we can start chatting. Let's get to the front nine. Front nine is presented by Metcalf Golf Club, a natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Golf season is obviously here, I think. It's really time to kind of get things going with the season ahead. Golf at Metcalf Golf Club is a perfect place to get things going. Become a member or get on a waiting list to become a member. Join one of the leagues. Participate in one of the many events. Or better off, save some money on your golf with their very popular game passes. Visit metcalfgolf.com for all that. Okay.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Well, it's hard to, I think where we need to start is Scottie Scheffler.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I know we got a lot to go on, but come on.
I know. It's ridiculous.
It begs the question.
Yeah.
What would have happened at the beginning of the year had he not hurt his hand?
Yeah, but that said, I mean, think of the first half of his career so far, where he didn't really get a win for a long time, and then all of a sudden he cracked open, and the last 3 years he's basically had a Hall of Fame career, which is wild. So
this is insane.
Yeah, so I don't think it was that much of a setback. You're right. I mean, he could have had a couple of more wins and stuff in there, but he's obviously the favorite every time he tees it up now, and it's the consistency of it, and we've gone on about it endlessly, and how can you not? I mean, it's just, you watch him tee it up, and you see him creep up the leaderboard. And I did watch a bit of the Memorial. I watched a bunch of the U.S. Women's Open as well, and just flipping back, and I could just see him going up, and you just knew it's like, look out, everyone else. And God love him. I mean, Nick Taylor had the lead there, but it was just like, how do you hang on on a place like that? That's a perfect example of a golf course that's perfectly built for a Scottie Scheffler. It's just it's a place that you'll win the war of attrition if you can just be smart and hit good shots and not make a lot of bogeys. And even when he makes a bogey, it doesn't phase him. Like, it just doesn't phase him. And whereas you see some of the other players just sort of melt a little bit.
There have been times watching Scheffler play where you do see the mistakes phase him.
Oh, for sure. But
It's not very often though, and I
no.
think I was watching interview they had with Nicholas,
Hmm.
and I mean he was pretty bold and pretty direct about saying that everybody else is in he's in a different league and everybody else is playing catch up. And where
Yeah.
when was the last time we heard that statement made by
Yeah.
other golfers?
Yeah.
Um,
One other time,
Only
really,
one
more than
other
anything.
time that I
Yeah.
can remember in the years and
Yeah.
years that I've been watching golf, even when Norman was dominant,
Hmm.
people didn't say that Norman was in a different league and everybody was playing for second. That's not
No.
what people said. He was dominant.
Yeah.
He was for a
Yeah.
long period of time, but people didn't say it like that. And
No,
they
and
said
you
it with
have the
Tiger, and now they're
yeah.
saying it with Scheffler. It's like, does that make him the favorite? Obviously, it does to win the U.S. Open, considering the U.S. Open is that kind of a golf course where when you're that laser
Hmm.
accurate,
Hmm.
you don't. That rough it is not going to be as big of a factor
Yeah.
for you.
The only thing that scares me about Oakmont will be, we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, next week. But the big thing that scares me there with Scotty is just the greens. I mean, the greens are so severe and stuff, and how will he how will he do on that? Obviously, it didn't affect him that much in the Memorial, where the greens run pretty fast and it plays in sort of major
Yeah,
like
but maybe
conditions.
not
So
the severeness
right,
of an Oakmont.
Oakmont, yeah, yeah, agreed.
Anyway, okay. Well,
So fun to watch.
we're going to be talking about Scheffler next week, I'm sure, when we
Oh
start
yeah.
previewing the U.S. Open, and we're going to talk more about Oakmont and the changes that they've made at Oakmont, which are extremely severe.
Mhm.
Um, but we have an event coming up that we're going to talk about. But first, let's just wrap up the first event on the Flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Tour.
Yeah.
Happened at presented by Cobra Puma Golf, obviously, and this is a Stableford event that starts the season off to give the local professionals a little bit of a reprieve
Yeah.
from trying to score, considering they've just spent probably the last 3 or 4 months getting pro shops open and staff oriented and tournaments organized and so on. And then, hey, let's go play a professional golf
Tournament.
tournament. So
Yeah.
um, that was played at Camelot Golf and Country Club.
On a
Awesome
perfect
day.
day, I might say.
I know, probably
It was so
probably
good.
the only perfect day we've had for golf and for
Really.
I don't know how long.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say I'm not too surprised
No.
by the winner. God, he's sorry, Craig Steferick
Stefrick. Yeah.
uh, was the repeat winner in the main division, and he can golf.
Yeah, and he'd won twice already this year on the East Coast Pro Tour, and I talked to him a bit afterwards, and he was going into Monday qualifying for the Canadian Open. Unfortunately, he didn't get through, but he's feeling confident about his game, and you put him out on a golf course like Camelot where he's comfortable, and already having those tournament reps under his belt. Whereas that was a different story for the rest of us that were out there that were just a little bit rustier.
Hmm.
Then there's a nice advantage for him, and yeah, he played well. He shot I think 4 under stroke play, but yeah, he played well and did a nice job, and he's obviously going to be a contender in every event this year.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Our buddy, the King,
Yeah.
JR. JR got it done against Chris Bernard in the senior division of the playoff action there, so that's always awesome. And Madison Barber,
Yeah.
uh, I guess we call Madison a rookie, right?
She is a rookie. She's just played in, well, not played in, but she just joined the PGA in the fall, and this was her first zone win. And yeah, it was good on her. She won that in the playoff with the Katie Walker. I should say though, Chris Bernard and the King was quite funny because they were done quite early, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're too sore. We don't really feel like playing off." No, 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 boys, you play off. Like it's a trophy. We have a sponsor. You go. This is the way it is, or whatever. So
The
yeah,
retrogression for
I
professionals.
know. It
Come
was just
on.
it's like, yeah, what are you thinking, boys?
I
So
hate retrogression.
yeah.
Okay, well that's good. And well, our very own Scott McLeod was participating in this particular tournament, and I
That's
was
about what I
watching the
call it.
leaderboard. I watched the leaderboard for a while.
Hopefully you
And
just watched after the first hole.
then I stopped watching the leaderboard. I mean, the
Oh,
birdie on one got was good start there, but something happened in there where those stable for points were not adding up.
no. Let's just say, yeah, I was good on the par fives. I think I played the par fives in 3 under. Here's the mistake I made. It was a really bad mistake. And for those who are not familiar with Camelot, this Tom McBroom course is let's call it undulating. It's quite hilly. It's got some hills to it. So here's the
Yeah.
thing. We show up. I'm thinking, oh great, we'll go, no big deal. Here's they put your clubs on a cart, and they say, okay, there's a two cart rule for the group. Okay, fine, or whatever like this. And I'm thinking, okay, well I'll just throw my clubs on a push cart for now, and
No.
I'll take that over to the range or whatever. And then my good playing mates, great guys. One showed up with his usual caddy. He's caddied for him since I think he said 1999. Bucky's caddy. So Roland's, I don't know, 70 plus now. So he was obviously jumping in the cart with him. That wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to push him out of the cart.
And then the
And
other
then
two jumped in the other cart.
and Pasquale and his caddy, that wasn't going to work out too well. And Pasquale, has had some health injuries or health issues, and he's back after 2 years and whatever. And so I wasn't going to be the knob and just say, hey guys, I got to get a card or whatever like this. So I'm thinking, front nine's not too bad or whatever like this. I'll push along or whatever. Yeah, it's you know what, having not and this is not an excuse, this is just a mistake by me, because really in the end I was actually swinging quite well. I would just say the issue for me, and this is a good lesson for anybody who's out there playing tournament golf, preparation and the ability to go through your routine and go through your process and doing what you're doing, taking the time that you need is very important. So the issue for me became, two groups, two guys in the cart, they go up, they get to their shot pretty quickly. I'm on, like, pick a hole, like 14 at
Yeah,
Camelot, the
you're on
split
life
fairway.
support.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
I,
on.
I am pushing this cart up the hill, winded or whatever. By the time I get there, they play their shots. They're waiting on me. I don't want to be a knob. I want to play. I don't want to hold the group up or whatever. So maybe I just don't take as much time as I can. And in the end, they were just very small mistakes that cost me. I mean, and ended up tied for 12th, but I mean, it was just like, they were just mistakes that end up compounding, and it made the difference very quickly. And yeah, so it was a bad process thing by me, and it was really
But what do you do differently? I guess, right?
I guess that's
somebody's got to not have a caddy, or they got to allow
yeah,
another cart if there's that many
yeah,
people. Because if you're playing in threesomes, which I assume you
yes,
were,
yeah, we were.
and two of the three have a caddy, and you're only allowing two carts per group, well, the math doesn't add up.
Not really, especially there. So I think the issue is more on but my side of it as well. So it's just not, I don't know. I think I have a hard time being selfish in golf tournaments. You know what I mean? As far as, which is weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
As far as wanting to, okay, I'll default to someone else as far as what their needs are versus my own. And I think in that case, I have to realize, if it's competitive golf and I want to play as well as possible, again, I got to make sure to put all that effort and stuff into it. But that was just a mistake on my part. Just making, what, I probably would have been better off if I had just carried the bag on the back nine. That would have been better.
probably.
That would have been better than the push cart, because I mean, holes like 11, 12, which you're familiar with there, the par three where you're
Mhm.
going up you push that up the hill, and then you got to go back down, and really, you're hanging on to dear life as you're going down with the cart on 12 on the back paths or whatever,
Yes.
not trying to get the cart going sideways and twist your wrist and snap it in half or whatever could happen. And then you got to push back up the hill again to get back up to the fairway and stuff. If I'd been carrying, that probably would have been better that way. So just a dumb thing. So just like we talked about when tournament prep a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
it's thinking it out properly and stuff like that. But yeah, enough of that on me. But great
All right.
event. Thanks to Reagan Wilkie, and it was good to see Joe out there as well doing
Yeah.
starting. So yeah, it was good to see him. And like you said, it was one of the only nice days so far this spring. Yeah, and that's about it. So, but
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
beginning to wonder actually
spring is
when does
arriving.
the spring come? Well, I know because I think spring is here.
Oh,
I
okay.
just think that spring doesn't know that it's supposed to leave.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I know that officially summer doesn't start till June 21st. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am not used to being in June.
You like turning on the heat on June 1st in your
Well, I
house?
mean, I had for literally for 3 days, I turned the AC on in the house because it actually
Yeah.
was uncomfortable to
Yeah, yeah,
sleep at
yeah.
night. I turned
Sure.
the AC on in the house
Off,
for
on,
3 days,
off, on. Yeah.
and then I put the furnace on
Yeah.
because it all of a sudden it dropped
Yeah.
to like 9 degrees at night.
Yeah.
The house
Yeah.
was 17 degrees. It's like, okay, now we're getting a little crazy with.
Yeah.
I like it cold when I sleep. I just don't like it freezing when I wake up.
Right. Yeah. I hear
So
you.
it's like, oh my gosh, like, can we just
Yeah.
please give me some warm weather in stretches so that, I mean, it's funny, Brandon is working on the maintenance crew at, my son
At
Brandon is working
Camelot.
on the maintenance crew at Camelot. And right now he's still in school, so he's only working Saturday and Sundays. So he
Right.
goes to work at 5 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like he was looking forward to this he loves working there, just
Sure.
loves
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but he
Those
was
5
looking
a.m.s
forward to
when
this
it's
drive
freezing.
at 5 in the morning where the sun is up and he
No.
gets there, and it's every single weekend it's raining, it's
Yeah.
free, it's eight
Yeah.
degrees and raining, and he's like,
Yeah.
I can we just get some warm weather once.
Those make for some tough days when you're doing manual labor, having worked on a greens crew when I was a teenager and stuff like that. If you get those lashing winds days or cold and you're in mega
Yeah.
layers and you realize, man, I got to put in 8-9 hours of rebuilding a bunker or cutting fringes or whatever.
Hmm.
You're outside and you're just cold and you're like, hey, this is not exactly what I signed up for. So
Yeah, no, I mean, he loves it. He doesn't
oh, I'm
mind
sure he
doing it. He
does.
thinks
Yeah.
it's great. He doesn't
Yeah.
care about the way, but he's just like, it would be nice to just have a couple of nice
Yeah.
warm days at some point or another where it's,
and and he was bang on. Obviously he said to you about some of the vistas and stuff that they've opened up and things
yeah,
there. Course was mint. I couldn't believe, actually, given all the rain that we've seen in the region this spring. And I mean, I'd gone from, I played down here in Kingston the day before just to kind of get my game sort of somewhat ready, I guess. That was my
hmm,
third full round of the year or whatever. And it's still swampy and soggy and stuff like that. I mean, Camelot was firm, greens were fast. They've done a great job with the tree programs they've done up there. Really, like they've said, they've opened up a lot of vistas. It'll look great. It's the best I've ever seen it, and the team there did a great job with that for sure. It's
cool.
fun to see.
All right. We got a big event coming up
This week.
this week, and I'm really excited I'm excited about this for a couple of reasons. We're talking about the RBC Canadian Open this year, and it's at TPC Toronto.
Yep. No,
And
of
I'm excited
course.
about this tournament for a couple reasons. Obviously, one, because it's the Canadian Open,
Mm-hmm.
and the field looks very strong, like very
Not
very
bad.
good field. And I'm excited to see how things look at TPC Toronto. Seeing how the course is prepared, how they play the course, if it plays difficult for them, if it plays easy, because you're coming off of Hamilton Country Club, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a Canadian Open where it's a challenging golf course, an older layout. The rough can get thick and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
How does TPC Toronto fare as a Canadian Open venue?
Mm-hmm.
And because this is certainly going to be something that is more of a longer than short term
Yeah.
kind of deal with them hosting. So
Yeah, we're going to see them obviously this year, next year for sure, and then it's basically going to become a continual host course in the rotation. So you're right. I mean, this is a real big test. I talked to Grant Fraser, who's up there covering it for us this week, and that was the one theme that we sort of looked at and discussed was, how's this going to play out? And there's going to be some growing pains for sure, but they did have the opportunity of a couple of things of having the Fortinet Championship for PGA Tour Americas there last September. Maybe different conditions. It was September. It was a different wind condition, so we'll see how the course plays relative to that. I heard I had one guy, he said, oh, they're going to go 25 deep on this golf course, just based on the fact that they have 37-yard wide fairways. I'm like, yeah, you obviously haven't played the golf course, because, even talking to Ian Andrew, who did the redesign, some of the cool things they did with this golf course is that, part of his redesign plan or work was to make the golf course playable so that, it could be played every day by your, everyday green feeder that's going to come up and play, North Course and on top of the other two courses they have there. But when it comes to playing, tournament golf course for PGA Tour, when they get the golf course, the green speeds faster, they can change the surrounds, they can basically transform the golf course a lot more to test these players. So the holes that you would play, let's say it's a month ago, you play their 18th hole in the north course. Well, now the bank is going to be shaved down, and this is a par 5 that has water in front of the green. There's a sort of a bit of a false front on the front of the green. There are on some other greens. The greens are a real test here, and really, it'd be a good Scotty Scheffler golf course if Scheffler was there. As far as the ball striking, it's definitely going to be that. Will some player tear it apart? Possibly, but again, that depends on the conditions that they end up facing this week. But it is going to be the longest course that they've ever hosted the Canadian Open on, which 73.89. The showing, this is what they show on the PGA Tour media thing. They have a board up at the course showing just over 74 at par 70. There's only 2 par 5s here. So we got a lot of long par 4s. And it's neat to see how you can take a golf course that's a public course and have it hosting a PGA Tour event. And you're familiar with the golf course. I don't know, you haven't seen it since the renovation, but
no,
I don't think the renovation changed the character of it too much from what you saw when you've been there before. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these world-class players kind of take it on. And it's an important week. It's an important week because not only is it the Canadian Open, it's a huge event for Golf Canada as far as to have success. TPC Toronto, Chris and his team, the owner there, they've done, and Brian Decker from the media side of it, they've done a really good job as far as leading up to this. This has been a long runway to get ready and to be hosting this. So there's a lot weighing on this, but they also know it's a long game as well. They know it's not a one and done. They know that there's probably going to be some adjustments they need to make after this particular year or whatever. We'll get to a few of those in a minute, but yeah, we'll see how that plays out, especially with the players in the field.
Yeah, no, I am looking forward to it. It has been a while since I played it, but I've seen a lot of pictures from many different angles of the holes, so I get a pretty good idea of what they did to it, and it does look like what Ian Andrew had done was certainly kind of blend the best of both worlds, and I think that's something to take into consideration. Is yes, 37 yard wide fairways and stuff like that, but the average person is going up to play and pay a green fee is not playing it at 7,400 yards either.
No, exactly.
So a lot of the things that come into play that don't come into play for the for the average player from the tees they're playing from will be a factor as they set the course up for the PGA Tour players. So it's going to be exciting. Now, there are 16 of the top 50 in the world in the field. Rory is probably the most notable.
Of course.
Nice that he's playing here and after not having played the Memorial. I'm not even going to go there. I haven't even heard exactly why he didn't play the Memorial, but I'm sure there must be a reason because you don't diss Jack Nicklaus like that. So.
No, but I think you need the problem now, as we've talked about on tour, is that, with all the signature events and majors and stuff as well, and then, you start to look at sponsor obligations.
Well, he has an RBC obligation too, and
correct,
as a two-time defending champ or two-time RBC Canadian Open champion,
yes,
he has an obligation to his sponsor to participate in this event. So he
couldn't
possibly do the Memorial, the Canadian Open, and then the U.S. Open. And, you've got to. Plus, I think did he play the week before? He played
played Truist. Truist. Yeah.
So I mean that's just 4 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row leading into the US Open. I mean, that's kind of I get it. I just maybe I don't quite understand the lack of Jack understanding the explanation. Maybe he did tell him. I mean, Jack's not a young
Yeah,
guy.
I
Maybe he
don't.
forgot. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. I think a
There's
lot of
more to
the.
the story. There always is more.
Yeah,
Isn't there?
yeah.
There's always more to the
Oh, there is.
story
Yeah, that we
than
all
we
don't
ever
know.
find out. The
Yeah.
media have a tendency to tell you the parts that they think you want to know, but the part that
Yeah.
probably defines it all gets held back because there's no story there.
Well, I think a lot of cases, I mean, a lot of people, if you're from an older generation, you look at things from the lens of what it was years ago. And the
Hmm.
landscape has changed, the schedules have changed and so forth. And yes, you know what, despite the fact that on the PGA Tour, you're not allowed to have appearance fees, we have to understand that players do have obligations with sponsors because they have things where they are paid to show up to other events or different things. They're not paid to be at the event,
No,
but
but they're
let's just
paid by their
say
sponsor to
they're
participate in sponsor events. It's part of their
correct.
contracts. Like you got to do a certain number of our events
Well,
or
yeah, no, no,
whatever.
no. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. No, that's the thing. When it's something like this, they can't pay them particularly
No,
to
but if
show
they
up.
have a sponsorship with
I'm
RBC, it's kind
I'm
of a given. Okay, you've got to play an event.
let me finish. Let me finish. All I'm saying is that they have other things that are there, and the implied thing, because you can't put it in a contract and saying you have to play this event. That's not legal as far as the PGA Tour is concerned. But the implication that obviously happens for these particular events is why you see a Sam Burns or a Shane Lowry or these players here. They are RBC athletes, so yes, there is an implication that you will show up and arrive here. And thank God for it that RBC is the major sponsor, because frankly, without a Rory here, the field is okay. And I'm not saying it's terrible as far as the players are concerned, but it is obviously going to be weaker because of the situation that we already explained. The fact that the U.S. Open is next week,
Hmm.
and a lot of players have prepped for that, and they're going between the Memorial and the U.S. Open and the Truist, and so you've obviously got a hell of a run that happens here, and guys have to have a week off at some point. They got to go see their families. They got to get their
Well,
games
yeah.
prepared. They just can't play nonstop. So
It's unfortunate. I shudder to think without RBC involved, how many of these players would still play.
that's the scary part, really, because you got to
And
remember,
that is scary and it's sad because it's a great tournament. They're great venues.
sure, yeah,
Um,
but
but
the
it's where it's located in the schedule is kind of
yeah,
it's
and
never
there's
been
an
good. It always used to be before the Open Championship too, right? Or
yeah,
after,
it was
right?
for a while. It was back. It was September at another point. I mean, there's not really a good spot in the schedule now because there are all the
January.
exactly, pretty much. I mean,
The
and
true
it become
Canadian Open, just shovel the fairways off and let's go.
that might be a
Watch
good
out for
idea.
the
Why not?
polar bears and the igloos, though, because
Yeah. And that is the difficulty for this tournament, the fact that it's a year-to-year sponsorship right now with RBC, and although RBC's involved with the RBC Heritage and stuff as well, I mean that's a hard sponsor to replace, especially in a time now that the purse is $9.8 million, so that's coming from RBC. There's other money that's involved in this event that they have to put up money for as well, or
Mhm.
take care of those expenses. So this gets to be a very expensive proposition. So if the event is not a success, not only does it become difficulty for Golf Canada, who is actually the operator, this pays for a lot of things that Golf Canada does. It becomes a real challenge overall. So you're right; it's a great tournament, has a long history, but the issue is that events have gotten so elevated that they sort of grow beyond kind of their areas. You don't have those local PGA Tour events sort of anymore. Everything has become bigger and bigger and bigger, and the venues have needed to change, and that's causing a bit of an issue. And I have a note in here for later on, but I'll mention it right now. This is becoming more and more of an issue because golf courses are what I've talked to a couple of golf courses is that especially some of the private clubs that wanted to host, they're not as willing now because they're not getting, they don't feel like they're getting enough for it. If they're a private club, they have to give up their course for a good bit of time. It is a big intrusion on them as a golf course, and that's going to go for as these events have gotten bigger, RBC Canadian Open and the CPKC Women's Open, it gets harder and harder for these clubs that are obviously, trying to serve their members, their business. It becomes harder and harder for them to host. They may have done it once before, and great, that's good from a marketing standpoint. But at some point, the marketing doesn't really do as much for them.
No,
They need that revenue and stuff like that. So the bigger these events get, the less venues are available for it, which puts restrictions on a lot of other things as well. So it's a very complicated formula, and it's not as easy as anybody assumes or thinks, especially if you see it on social media. But they'll do the best they can, obviously this week, and then they'll hope for the best beyond that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got a pretty strong field of international stars: Ludwig Oberg, Sungjae Im, Tom Kim, Alex Noren, Shane Lowry, of course, Justin Rose, Wyndham Clark, Max Homa, and the defending champion Robert McIntyre. I guess we'll call headline the field.
Sure.
It's about 23 Canadians that are playing in the field.
Yeah.
The usual suspects, obviously, the Nick Taylors.
Yeah,
Taylor
he's coming off a
Pendrith,
fourth at
just
Memorials.
the normal guys that we would expect to see there, being
Yeah.
they're so strong on the PGA Tour. We also have qualifiers and other exemptions that were granted to players. Teen Matthew Javier won the final spot that was available this past Sunday.
Yeah.
He's from North York, young Ontario golfer who won the Ontario Men's Amateur in 2024. He beat out Mark Hoffman in a playoff at the final qualifier hosted at the Pulpit Golf Club.
Which was terrible weather for qualifying, by the way.
Terrible weather for anything. So
Yeah.
qualifying or otherwise, I suppose. So he now joins the rest of the Canadians already exempt for the event, which is happening this week.
So who are you thinking though? I mean, Nick Taylor. Look, let's think. Nick, Rory's obviously going to be number one for everyone. As far as playing this golf course, and it's perfectly suitable for him, especially off the tee. Even if it gets a little bit wild, there's still some room there. Among the Canadians, though, I mean, Nick Taylor is coming off a fourth at Memorial, but I would argue that maybe a Taylor Pendrith, because of the advantage as far as the length, and might be a little bit more suitable. Memorial has the traditional amount of par fives at the golf course there. But I would say you only have two par fives here. Mm-hmm. So you really got to be able to take advantage of the par fours. So, the hard part with this is that it's always great to see as many Canadians as possible in the field, but we also know, it's pretty rare that, even a quarter of them will make the cut. But it is nice to see some of the younger players get their shot and get a chance to get that experience and get their feet wet and get to play and maybe it leads to something else in the future for sure.
I mean, Nick Taylor's probably the favorite, just given the type of season that he's having so far and coming off a strong finish last week at the Memorial. But I mean, Mackenzie Hughes traditionally has played well at the RBC Canadian Open, albeit not closed the deal. Nick's the only one that's done that. It's hard to do to win your national championship, but Mackenzie Hughes has played well. And
I think they said there's only 6 players in the field that have actually played this golf course before, so it is going to be very new for a lot.
Very wide open. It's probably more of the amateurs that have played the.
Yeah, you're right. Pros, actually,
to be honest with you,
right. So,
I mean, there's a lot of, Ashton McCulloch from Kingston is in the field. Is it possible that this could be some, a venue that he might win on? I don't know. I mean,
he's coming off a wrist injury. He didn't play all that great in the U.S. Open qualifying on Monday. Sudarshan Yalamaraju has been playing well on the Corn Ferry Tour. Hunter Thompson's coming off a great season in the NCAA. Good finish at Urbana as far as the conference championship. So he's playing great. AJ Ewert's been playing well at PGA Tour Americas. He's probably had the strongest season there. The one I would say that people need to look out for among the Canadians is Richard T. Lee. Richard T. Lee is from Toronto originally, but has played most of his career on the Asian Tour and the Korean Tour. He's a multi-time winner on those tours. I've chatted with him a bunch on social media over the springtime, and he's in a good spot with his game, and I would not be surprised to see him kind of make his name a little bit more known on home soil.
Well, we will see what happens this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a break.
Sure.
And we'll get to the interview with Jodie Jenkins from Endless Summer, World Long Drive Championship event being held in Belleville, only one in Canada. But stay with us. We will talk about some other stuff in the back nine as well, but stay with us. We will be right back. You're listening and watching the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Don't go away.
Unlock more forgiveness. Unlock more accuracy. Unlock more distance from more of the face. Introducing the new QI35 from TaylorMade.
All right, well, welcome back to the Flagstick podcast. I'm Jeff Potter. He's Scott McLeod. And we do have to get to the interview with Jodie Jenkins, and that's going to be cool and everything. But I think there was still a little bit of stuff that we kind of left on the table with the with respect to the Canadian Open. And it is the Canadian Open, so we're going to spend a little bit more time on it than than we normally would maybe for another tournament.
Sure. And you'll see lots of posts on flagstick.com this week, obviously, about the tournament.
So we kind of left it off as you were talking about Richard Lee and, getting an exemption and being one of the ones to sort of, we won't call it a dark horse because realistically, this is probably not some, exempt
novice
player that's going to jump in and win the RBC Canadian Open. You never put it past anybody. Events like the Canadian Open, especially at a course that people are very unfamiliar with and that maybe some of these exempt players are more familiar with, and we don't know. We don't know how much some of these players have been to TPC Toronto and played, whereas the PGA Tour guys, they're not coming in and frequenting. You know what I mean?
No.
Whereas some of these guys, they might be frequenting a little bit more because they have the time and the proximity and they can.
Yeah, the Team Canada members for sure, because they brought a bunch of camps and stuff out there. So, they definitely have that, whether that gives them the experience to, take on a field.
Still
of
a PGA Tour
players.
event, regardless of how you slice it. You're in the tournament with Rory McIlroy and Robert McIntyre and Ludwig Oberg. So let's be honest with ourselves here. But that said, I'd like to see it happen. Some of the regional qualifiers, Cougar Collins from Mono, Ontario, he was one of the first qualifiers that qualified in Brampton.
And literally lives right there. He grew up in Caledon, and Mono, Ontario, which is like right there, and played out of TPC. So he's probably more familiar than anyone. He's probably got more rounds on that than anyone.
Exactly, but then you throw the pressure of
course.
Then that kind of changes the things a little bit too. So, there's a lot of players in there that potentially have. Mike Weir. What do we think? 7,400 yards is pushing it a little bit for the hybrid.
Look, it's nice that he's there. It's nice that he's playing his 32nd RBC Canadian Open. He's going to be, tied for the record for number of starts of the RBC Canadian Open with, I think, George Cumming. But we know it's a ceremonial type thing. He still can play.
Sure.
I'm not saying he can't.
But the length of the golf course might be a little bit.
That's a lot. That's a lot of golf course. It's just a lot of long irons. Even seeing, the young guys play on there during that Fortinet Championship last year. If they weren't longer players, man, they struggled on this. I mean, the long par threes, and and it's not just the length; it's having the accuracy at length. It becomes so difficult, and the greens, the way these greens were shaped, they can definitely create some hole locations that are really difficult to get to. So it's not a matter of just hitting a fairway and plopping onto a green, and they're good sized greens, but they're definitely, if you want to have good opportunities to make birdies, you got to hit it in the right part of the green. So when you're doing that all of a sudden from 220 yards, that's not easy. It doesn't matter if you're a world-class player or not.
See, I've always been a strong long iron player, so I like my chances. I mean,
we should actually, you know what? That said, we should go up, play from the tips, play it as a par 70, and see what happens. Play the same routing, same layout, and I mean, yeah.
So do we go up? We do this, and we shoot video of it,
of course,
and we put it into a little YouTube road trip. Kind of a how would we have done at the RBC Canadian Open?
Yeah. Okay.
I think we should do that. I think we should book it. I think we should do it. I'm pretty sure that we can probably
make some arrangements.
Make some arrangements to make that happen. That would be funny. But the problem is my long iron game now is somewhat limited. So the problem being that most of the par fours, I would be hitting long irons in for my third shot.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be that bad. I think one of the cool things that we're going to see. I mean, I think we've got some young players in this field that are going to be fun to watch. Luke Clanton is one I'm kind of keeping an eye on that's in here, and Luke's interesting because obviously he's been a top amateur. He's played well in some PGA Tour events. He's coached by a Canadian and Jeff Leishman, who's going to be there. Gordon Sargent, another guy who had a lot of success in the NCAA, but I'm not too sure what his game is like heading into this. He was at the US Open qualifying at Lambton, so they had a Canadian site. That was happening yesterday. I think he shot 80 in the first round, and then withdrew after that. So hopefully he withdrew to go play some more practice rounds. But you're not expecting it. But these are guys that are 190 ball speed plus. So I mean, these are skills that they can take to that golf course and that can make it interesting. So I think there'll be a lot of people watching Ben Griffin this week, who's obviously he's been a continual contender. He actually, I think he finished second to McIntyre last year.
I like the fact that he rocks the Top Gun shades there when he
well, he has to medically. I don't know if you caught the whole story.
I think it's cool. He's got
the aviators on. But he's played well. He got that team win, then he got an individual win. He's been in contention kind of nonstop all season. So I think that will be a guy that gathers a little bit more attention this week. And then beyond that, I mean, there's certainly some players to follow.
Cam Young can move it out there. So I mean, from a distance perspective, if he can drive it accurately, I mean, that's a guy that could potentially have a pretty distinct advantage over the rest of the field, being one of the longest players on the PGA Tour. So
just qualified for the U.S. Open yesterday, and
did Burns qualify for the U.S. Open? By the way, I mean, I don't
know if he did. I
saw a video of him carrying his bag or something, and
I don't know. I think he may have lost out in.
I thought he was already qualified.
Well, yeah, that's a hard part with the U.S. Open, right? There's not a lot of spots that qualify people. And you got to remember, this is a tough part of this week, too, is that these players are going from playing these 36-hole qualifiers on the Monday, coming in late to Toronto. Chances are they're not going to see the golf course much on Tuesday. Hopefully, they're in the Pro-Am on Wednesday. A lot of them are going to be playing the course blind on Thursday. So, and, whether they've got the energy or not, based on having to go from playing Memorial, and then all of a sudden 36 holes of the US Open qualifier, some extra travel in there. So this plays into it as far as the week is concerned. But it's just part of professional golf, but it's certainly something we still have to deal with as humans. But my concern as we go into the week is, what's it going to look like as well? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that are going. I've also talked to some other people that are going, man, I live in Hamilton. It's still going to be an hour and 15 for me to get out there. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be a difference maker. And I'm a little worried right now because one of the things that I've seen, and I know they have we'll call it as a TPC venue, they've got pretty much unlimited as far as space,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. That's one of the great parts about TPC Toronto versus, Hamilton's fantastic, but you can only tuck like 25,000 people in there. So you can put unlimited amounts. So is that why we haven't heard of, a sellout on Saturday or Friday? They have the concerts on Friday and Saturday. And we usually hear about that by now, where they say, hey, tickets are already sold out for Saturday. It's $116 for a ticket on the weekend days. Thursday's the cheapest, about $90. Then you got to travel out there, parking, whatever the case. You're still seeing a world-class event. So I think the value and stuff is there, but I'm very curious of what the attendance is going to look like. And I know the population is growing towards out there, but it's still when I hear still people talking to me, they still say out there. You know what I mean?
The thing is, if Hamilton could only accommodate 25,000 people, and they sell out or near sell out or whatever the case may be, and TPC Toronto can accommodate 40.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's highly unlikely that they're going to hit 40. I mean, most PGA Tour events don't. So if they're at 25 and their capacity is 40, then they're not going to be saying we've reached a sellout. So they may not talk about the attendance, although you'd think that they would want to talk about the attendance that they have received a little bit and make note of the fact that given the venue that we can accommodate more people than a lot of other Canadian Open venues can accommodate, but we're at the same type of capacity at those events. So people don't think it's like, parking's a better situation out there too, is it not? Like,
I think so. There's lots of different places and things that go. I mean, as we know, so there's a couple things. One, yes, I've definitely seen a lot more last minute ads pushing ticket sales, which is a little bit different than saying, hey, we're already sold out here or there. Accommodations out there, as we know, is a tough go.
But there are not very many even nearby, so you're traveling a long way for
which is difficult if somebody's going to be there for multi-days. It's a little different if you're going in there for a single day. You drive in, you drive out, that's the case maybe. But if you're going there for multi-days, you're going to stay over the weekend or whatever, you usually want to be nearby. You usually don't want to have to drive in 45 minutes down to Brampton or Mississauga each day to spend an hour and a half of it driving, let alone this is an hour and a half on a regular time. This is not during while there's a major event going on. So, you still got to deal with whatever traffic flow and stuff like that going in there. So I want to see how they manage that. Again, I'm not saying it's not going to be a success. I'm just saying these are the growing pains that we're going to find out about as this goes, as far as I think the future and its location is good. The infrastructure is amazing. I think that, they've got the space there. They've got, over 600 acres of the property, that gives them space to do a lot of other different things. They've done amazing stuff with the amenities and stuff like that. I think surrounding them, that's the hard part right now, is just not a lot of accommodations. And I'm not saying Toronto people are finicky or whatever, but it's kind of a weird dynamic. If you're in Mississauga and someone says you have to go to Scarborough, people go, whatever, I drive on the highway and go over there. It might take you an hour and some to get over there. But if all of a sudden you say, oh, now you have to go north for the same amount of time, they say, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally understand it.
And maybe we're used to driving places. So maybe that's part of it. I mean, we've driven up to TPC for, a game before, and it's worth it to go there, but let's see.
Well, it's funny. Like we were talking before, I was booking, coaching hockey again this year, and I was booking away tournaments, and we're looking at a tournament in Halton Hills, which is about, 4.5 hours away from here. Yep. Between Toronto and Guelph, and the hotel, the tournament forces you to book hotels within their group. Sure. So I'm booking hotels, and the hotels are near the airport. And I'm like, okay, well, I look at that, and it's, I look at the MapQuest. Oh my God,
MapQuest. Okay.
And the hotels are average 20 to 30 minutes from each of those three rinks, and the hotel drive time is about 20 to 30 minutes from each of the rinks. And I look at that and it's like, okay, so what's the problem? But then I tell anybody else about that, and it's like, are there not any hotels any closer? It's like, well, what do you do? Want to walk across the frickin' street?
Yeah,
20 to 30 minutes. If you're playing and I put that into perspective for somebody, if you're playing a hockey tournament in Canada, and you live in Metcalfe where I live.
Oh God, yeah, you're an hour and a half.
It's 35 to 40 minutes
at least
with no traffic to get from my
Yeah.
place to Canada, but nobody cares.
Right.
But if
Yes,
you have
exactly.
to, but if you're staying by the airport in Toronto,
Yeah.
which is on the other side of Toronto, by the way,
Yeah,
because that's
exactly.
like Brampton, and if you're there and you're going to Halton Hills, which is where the tournament is, which
Milton area, yeah.
is Milton area, it's 20 to 30 minute drive on the other side of Toronto, which means not nearly as much traffic.
I know.
It's not that big a deal, and it's mostly highway driving to it. So it's like
It's just about perception more than
it
anything,
is. It's
right?
so much perception, you know.
So again, it's like, okay, how's this going to affect everything? And I'm sure they've got this questions as well. I mean, I haven't talked in detail about, to some of our people in our contacts. I know, at Golf Canada, but they're obviously got to be nervous as well with any type of new venue. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, especially, you've got a golf course here that, this is the only, I think the seventh or eighth venue since 1977,
Yeah.
because obviously, Glen Abbey's, had a big part of that. And, a lot of the future of this event you know, is anchored around TPC Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So, they want it to be a success as much as possible, and they don't want to obviously just force that. They want to make sure that it is a success.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot riding on it as far as this
Financially,
weekend.
for the future of this Canadian Open, there a lot rides on this weekend
Very much.
and future years
Yeah.
with TPC Toronto hosting because they want to host it. And so there's no issue of we talked what you talked about at the beginning, where some golf courses and some facilities are not wanting to host because of the burden that it puts on their membership and their club. So if that's the case, and you have a golf course facility that wants to host it, you got to figure it out, people, because sooner or later you're going to have golf. Nobody's going to want to host it, and you're going to have a sponsor lined up, and you're going to be like, "Well, we've got a sponsor, but we don't have a golf course that actually wants to host the event. What do we do now?"
Yeah, because I've had some discussions with a couple of different CEOs from some golf courses that have hosted national championships the last number of years, and they are not in a hurry to have a national championship back to their facility. And it's a variety of reasons, but a lot of it has to do with disruption. There's a lot of things that have happened, obviously, with COVID, with weather, with renovations at some of these properties and things like that. So as a result of it, they want their members, the people that pay the bills, to have somewhat of a normal season for the first time. And the inconvenience over pride of hosting a championship is it's not worth it for some of them. So they're willing to do it, but when they're starting to talk about maybe not for another bunch of years, that's an issue for a big organization hosting a major sporting event. That these are just not things that you can just pick any golf course. And I think that's always the hard part for a lot of people. They want to see it in a lot of different venues around Canada, and we've discussed it much before. There's great golf courses across the nation, but it just doesn't work that way. There's too many other logistics that go into it as far as hosting it and having there, be it this size event or the CPKC Women's Open, which while it's a smaller event, it's grown bigger and bigger, and there's still a lot of logistics that go into that. And the same things happen with that as well, as far as hosting. So,
no, I understand moving it around. I mean, I've always said that it's a lot easier. I mean, we have the Flagstick Open that's been at the Equinell Golf Club in Kemptville for 13 years now. And just an amazing golf course, amazing group of people, amazing infrastructure in place out there to host it. But we've been there for 13 years, which is great, because we know where this is going, we know where this is going, we know how this is going to happen. There's not a whole lot of discussion about, okay, we need this, the food is this. It's the same. And
you don't have to figure out where the signs go. You don't have to talk to a different superintendent. You don't. Yeah, you're right. It's logistics that make it a lot easier. You don't have to rebuild the wheel every time that you start, right?
No, and yet if we moved it around from year to year to year, I'm sure there are other golf courses that would. I know there's other golf courses that would love to host it, because of the exposure that it creates. Much like these events, the exposure it creates for your golf course with the amount of promo and marketing that comes along with the event is big. But you go to another golf course to host it. Now you've got to go down there and do, some reconnaissance, if you will, figure out
Site visits, whole
where are you putting
location
registration,
setups.
where are you doing
Yeah,
this, how are you you got to bring your rules people down to figure out where to paint and where to
yeah,
stake, and it creates a
yeah,
whole different set of problems that
yeah.
you know it's hard to deal with. So I get it, but it is the Canadian Open. You kind of think that it should be out west, that it should be in central Canada, it should be out east, it should be in the Maritimes, but can they support it?
That's
And
the problem.
it's a
And
business too.
yeah,
The
it is.
money is
Yeah,
for something.
yeah, yeah. It is a business, and people have to realize and understand that it's not a for-profit business like maybe some other operator for an event. This is Golf Canada. This is the
Mhm.
Canadian Golf Association with its and they're highly dependent on it. And it's not that they can take a lot of these risks, and they've taken the risk before. And we've seen failures of Canadian Opens that happened in Montreal, for an example, or different ones that didn't have a lot of success, and that has a lot of long-term damage
Yeah.
on Golf Canada, their programs, what they're able to do. So there's only a certain amount of risk that they can take on because again, RBC only foots a large portion of the bill, but a lot of the risk and everything goes on to the team at Golf Canada too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's got to be a
Understandable.
success. So anyways, speaking of big
Okay.
events.
Yes, huge events. Now, before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody that the Back Nine is presented by Celtic Golf Center with two awesome locations, the flagship location in Kempville and the brand new location in Kingston, both featuring multiple state-of-the-art TrackMan sims. Your golf season never has to end. Enjoy a round of golf with friends, join one of the many leagues, get fit for some new equipment, or take a lesson. Celtic Golf Centers have got you covered because it really is all about the golf. Visit Celtic Golf Center to learn more. Book tee times or sign up for a league. Albeit locations, I don't know, is Kingston still rocking? No. So
Just open for fittings,
functions and
lessons,
things like that.
private functions. Yeah,
Yeah.
not open on a daily basis, but
So, but
they're
fittings.
both fittings. Yes. So talking to Andy, I think I talked to him. I don't even know. It's all a blur. They're doing a bunch of stuff, and then obviously he's getting ready for Carlton Place, which we'll have some more details on soon, hopefully. So
Yeah, great. Okay, so we want to get to the interview. So you had the opportunity to sit down with Jodie Jenkins of the Zeke Agency.
mhm.
And Jodie has been running the Endless Summer event down in Belleville, which features the only Canadian um, stop of the World Long Drive Association's tour, I guess.
Yep,
And a lot, it has grown.
it has.
From what his vision was in the beginning and what he was doing in the very first event to where it is now, it is a
Yeah,
mammoth undertaking. It's
yeah,
a big deal,
yeah.
and a
It's
great
fun.
event. And you had the opportunity to sit down and chat with Jodie about that and this year's event and what's going on. So we're going
Mhm.
to play that interview. We're going to play that interview right
There
now.
you go.
And so here is Scott McLeod sitting down with Jodie Jenkins from Endless Summer's Long Drive event in Belleville to discuss the whole deal. Have a listen.
All right, we want to welcome back to the podcast good friend Jodie Jenkins from the Zeke Agency and Endless Summer. Got another big event coming up. Jodie, how you doing?
Doing well. It's a pleasure to be back on the program.
Well, you know what? Been too long, a year, I guess. I know you're ramping up. You're just a couple weeks away. We can see in your background there.
Yes.
Endless
Can't wait
Summer.
to start this way.
There you go. June 13th, 14th in Belleville at Trillium Wood. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the event for people that are not aware of it, and then we'll get into the details.
Yeah, Endless Summer happening June 13, 14 at Trillium Wood, as you just mentioned. This by virtue of attendance and the field that we get, has now become the biggest long drive event in the world. At one point, it was the biggest long drive event in Canada. But I preface that now by saying that, again, by the virtue of how many fans we're getting out and just the continued growth. So this literally is a 2-day spectacle. I almost say, Scott, and you can appreciate this, and your listeners that are golfers can appreciate this. It's almost like a mashup of a music festival. We got live DJs, You throw in a little sprinkle of some live golf hype and fun. You throw in like the PGA Tour and the LPGA because we have men and women, and then you kind of mix that all up with professional wrestling, and that's kind of what the event is like, because you have these larger than life characters, both men and women, that are hitting the ball further than you've ever seen, and they're doing it in a manner that makes you go your jaw drop. And
Yeah.
one of the comments we get the most is first timers that come and watch this are like, I cannot wait to come back, because it's just adrenaline, it's energy, it's a rush. So it's a 2-day festival. We have pro-ams, 2 pro-ams happening on the Saturday, and this year as well we're excited to add a military division. So this is an actual tour stop on the World Long Drive Tour, and World Long Drive has done a lot of work in the military world, a lot of events they've held on different bases in the U.S., and we're excited to be holding one of these events in here in Belleville, and effectively it's Canada versus USA. Timely, maybe. We didn't plan it like that, but that's what it's ending up being. So people can come out Friday night, watch the military division. We're going to have a flyby from 8-Wing Trenton, the Skyhawks are doing a demo. We've got some great guests that are going to share some remarks, and then that all starts at 8:30 under the lights. And then Saturday we've got the finals happening under the lights as well on Saturday night. I mean, I can break down the format for you. I'm sure you have some other questions, but
Sure. Actually, you know what? Before we get to, just because you mentioned the military night, I know you have a charitable component to the event that not only benefits the military community, but the community in whole. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your charitable partners this year?
yeah, so the event itself, it's $30 to get into the event. It's an all access pass. So basically you buy a ticket for $30 and you can come on Friday, watch the hitting, the qualifying in the afternoon, hitting at night. You can come and watch guys and girls hit off during the pro-am. You can't play in the pro-am on Saturday, but you can come and watch, and then you can come and watch on Saturday night as well. So for $30, 2 days of entertainment, you can't beat it. And $5 from every ticket is going to support the United Way of Hastings Prince Edward, as well as the Trenton Military Family Resource Center. And then on site, we have a bunch of other fundraising initiatives as well, including a huge 50-50 that will directly benefit the charities. Boys from Customize My Clubs, if you're familiar with them and the work they do, they're going to be on site. Every club that they customize, a portion of that is going back to the charity as well. Raffles, all types of fun stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this event started out as a charitable initiative, and we continue to make sure that we have a piece of this whole weekend, but it certainly has grown beyond that, because now people are coming just for the experience of being involved in the event, and the charity does play a role. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but we continue to maintain that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, this is the fourth year. Is that correct?
4th year for Endless Summer, but
Yes,
ninth year
correct.
for doing this charity
Yes.
event. Yes, it's kind of morphed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think your point that you made as far as the compilation of different varieties of sports and different activities is a great example, because I think if people go and they get to this is not your same old golf tournament where polite clapping and walking along. It is loud, it's cheering, there's high energy. The players are obviously emotional. As far as the hitters, they're really getting into it. And I think, for those who haven't been to a long drive event before, they're going to be shocked by the amount of energy and adrenaline they probably have by the time they leave after the champions are crowned.
Yeah, this event is driven by the fans. I mean, one of the things that World Long Drive, if you go back to Long Drivers of America with Art Sellinger and all that, I mean, the fans that used to come out and watch, in the Zubak days and then in Sedlowski's days, I mean, talking about 2 great Canadian long drivers, the fans really drove the event. And then with COVID and some transition there, that they went into a lull. We saw a spike when Bryson DeChambeau took the tee at the PLDA event a couple years ago in Mesquite, but it did kind of take a hit. But one thing we kind of focus on here in this region is we're trying to consistently grow this. It's a grassroots movement in terms of how many fans we pull out. And 4 years ago, we were on the first tee at Trillium, because that's where this all happens with the long drive. And I can remember there was like about maybe 100 people standing around having a great time watching the hitters. The second year we had one set of bleachers and 400 and some odd people. Last year we had 2 bleachers and almost 800 people. So it continues to trend up and up and up, but we have a great team that hustles out there. And again, we're looking for exposure all over. I mean, we're talking to people in Toronto and Ottawa and groups that, in saying like this is worth the drive, and that
Yeah.
we've seen a definite increase, especially in like the Kingston area, Ottawa area. More and more teams are signing up and driving from that area to come and participate. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, anybody that's been there and witnessed it knows, kind of what it's about. But for the other people that are just a bit curious, worth the trip. Why don't you take us through the format a little bit, and then we'll get to some of the hitters that are going to become, because I know you've got some big names in the business, and some spectacular hitters that are taking part.
Yeah, so the format is it's a little different. I mean, different than what the hitters would be used to on the schedule when they do their events, but it's unique, and I think it also draws in a different crowd. But so on Friday, at about 1:30, there's 48 men in the men's field. There'll be 12 women in the women's field. The men will begin a double elimination qualifier. So basically, they're going to be cycling through all 48 guys, and we're going to qualify, I believe, 12 guys that way that will go directly into the Saturday night finals. We get it down to 24, but 12 from the Friday will go through. On the Saturday, the people that didn't qualify through the double elim will have an opportunity to qualify on course during the pro-am. So again, that's another feature that we get real interest from, because you want to sign up and put a foursome in the event. You're playing with a long driver who's going to be qualifying on course. It's something unique that you just don't get to experience all the time, and that's kind of the draw. So the men that didn't qualify on Friday will be doing that. All 12 women will be doing that on Saturday, and then from there we take another portion of those individuals to get to our final 12 for men and women, and they will basically start hitting on Saturday night under the lights. And until we get down to match play, we get down to an even number of players, and then we start going. So they'll have 3 on the tee to start, and then we'll work our way down to where it's 1v1 and match play, and it's an absolute blast, and it goes pretty quick. I mean, they
Yeah.
get 6 balls. It doesn't take long to get through these events, so it's high energy, it's adrenaline, loud music. We got an amazing DJ coming back from Toronto, Channel 9. The guy is unbelievable. And Jason Ferguson will also be spinning there as well. But I mean, you've been, Scott.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fun. It's
and
fun.
I think that nighttime component is really wild as well, because I mean, when you see those golf balls flying in the air, and you can, I mean, for anybody
Yep.
that has a hard time tracking a golf ball in daylight, this is a whole different experience. So when you
Yeah.
get to see that, and you get it, those golf balls going out there, obviously at velocities that people are not used to seeing at all. It's kind of like when people all of a sudden, get to an F1 race for the first time, and they see how fast these cars go. This is exactly it. These are the best hitters in the world going, hitting the golf ball the longest possible way. So it is spectacular that way. So obviously you've got some returning champions, you've got some big hitters. Who have you got coming that people either might know or should know?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got the returning champ, Scotty Pearman from North Carolina. A wonderful hitter. His winning drive last year, I think, was just over 400. The
Yeah,
guy hits a
just over
ball.
400. Easy stuff.
He hits a ball in the air. It's so high. That's his calling card, is so high. That's all carry. Like that's his game. We also have the another Canadian returning champ, Cody Billinghurst, who won the first year. And then, we have our international flavor, which I love to mention too. We have Naoto Masumi, who won
He's
year 2
awesome.
from Japan.
He's
He's coming
awesome.
back. We also have our first Chinese hitter coming, Zezin Hu. I think he goes by Jason Hu. So
Okay.
he's flying in from China.
Wow.
And also staying with Japan, our first Japanese female hitter, and that's Madoka Hasagawa, is coming to hit. And apparently she puts on quite the show. So we're excited about that. But so we have hitters, Scott, coming from all over the world. I mentioned Japan, I mentioned China, obviously US, Canada. We have Germany coming, we have the UK coming, we have Australia coming. I think we even have some South Africans coming, I think I'm right on that, but I could be wrong. But it's just such an international flavor. And I will say that out of the top 16 ranked hitters, according to World Long Drive and their rankings, 13 of the top 16 will be here. We have the top 5 in the world, headlined by Colton Casto, who he's
Yeah, he's
pretty darn
good.
good.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
is.
I'd love to. I mean, I know a lot of people know about Kyle Berkshire, and
Sure.
Kyle has participated. before, and Kyle's doing some. I think he's trying to get into the pro golf world now, but we've been speaking. It possibly could come, but I don't know. But anyway, I've been trying to get out there, do a little bit of wrestling angle promo, just saying like, wonder what it'd be like to see Colton versus Kyle right now, because Colton Casto he moves it,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty impressed with that kid, and I've seen him from day one. He was one of the guys that came up during COVID when in our first year, and I was very impressed with that, and just to see the growth in him over the years has been amazing. And then of course Ryan Gregnall, another top Canadian, who's just these guys. And then on the ladies' side, Monica Living, she won last year with a drive of 335, which is crazy. Kelly Rudney, another top Canadian. Cassandra Meyer, you can see some of them in the background there.
Yeah, I
TJ
do.
Baker, TJ
Yeah.
Baker, will be there, another great Canadian. So it's the field is unbelievable, and the international. I'm always blown away that people are coming from China and Japan, as an example, to Belleville to
Yeah,
compete in this event. Like, I'm just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
it's funny.
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, but that's good. The other
No.
thing I think people should know, I mean, there's a couple of things here. I think people should, give some of these people a follow on their social media, and they'll get a taste of what it's like. And I think that will
Yep.
drive them to, to want to, buy a ticket and be there. The other side of it too is people have to realize that, this is very much entertainment. Again, we go back to, golf being that sort of, quiet. When you think about pro golf, normal pro golf, the players are obviously pretty steady. They're fairly quiet emotionally. Fans tend to gravitate towards the players that do show their emotions. This is a sport where players definitely show their emotions, and they realize that they are entertainers. So as a result of it, that's what you get. You get a performance here. It's not just people stepping up, hitting six golf balls and going and sitting down. That's not the case. These are characters, really.
It's high energy, a lot of screaming, and they feed off the crowd. So we expect that there'll be over 1,000 spectators this time around, especially with our military component on the Friday night, and then of course the finals on Saturday night. And tickets, obviously, people always want to know where you can get tickets. EndlessSummerGolf.ca. I'll just put that out there.
Probably I was gonna get there.
Do it again before we leave, but
yeah.
It's energy. You don't sit down. It's edge of your seat, screaming. And it's like I'm a huge wrestling fan. So you gravitate towards the good guys and the bad guys, and you pick your player and you ride with them. Like, that's kind of how it works. And the other cool thing, and you've been in a lot of pro-ams, Scott, in your time, I know that more than me. And you start to build relationships with these players too. Like, we have returning hitters that want to play with the same team they played with last year, and you start to get to know them. And like you said, following them on their social media is a great way to find out what it's all about. So.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. It's definitely a can't miss. And really, for people, I mean, this is a unique opportunity. I mean, it's right here in Eastern Ontario. You're not going to get many world-class events at this level here in this area. So, take advantage of it when you can. Otherwise, you might regret it. So
the only one in Canada. It's the only one in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to see long drive at this level, your only option is literally Belleville, Ontario. So.
Wild. Thanks, Jodie. Really appreciate that. Looking forward to the event this year. I know I'm going to jump online right away and make sure to promote some other things here, but looking forward to it, and all the best with this year's event. Endless Summer, amazing, worthwhile ticket every year.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the support, Scott. Look forward to hopefully seeing you that weekend. And again, EndlessSummerGolf.ca.
Perfect. Thanks, Jodie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. Great interview. Again, just where the event has began to where that event is now, and the vision that he has going forward, pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it's grown a lot, and I'm hoping to get back down there this year. I missed it last year, but I was there the year before, under the lights, and it was just a cool vibe. This is really what it was. And I was there from the start of the afternoon, and how everything sort of built up with the excitement of the evening as people started to roll in. And what I was impressed with was how far people were coming for this. Like, I literally thought, okay, there are going to be some people here from Belleville and Kingston and, maybe a little bit further far, but man, they were rolling in from all over the place. Like, I literally was talking to people from all around North America that were coming to watch this. So that's pretty cool. especially happening
Very
here,
cool.
in Eastern Ontario, for him to be able to do that and pull it off. It's pretty damn impressive. And, I expect it to be that much more impressive this year. And the field has just gotten better and better. And, the athletes have fun too. And that all adds to it. And as he said in the interview, the energy that they have, this is just as much entertainment as is sport. So that makes it fun for people to get into and watch. So I definitely encourage people to grab their tickets and get out there.
Be nice to see Bryson DeChambeau.
He doesn't compete in this stuff anymore. He did before, though. He was competing for a couple of years, but
That'd be fun. He's devoted to the golf. The golf, and it's all
he's
about the
devoted to
golf.
golf. Yeah.
I must apologize to Jodie. I know Jodie and I had conversed during the off season a number of times about us getting a little bit more involved in this event, and just the circumstances of some personal things
Yeah.
just kept me from being able to put some effort into it, and I didn't want to half-ass it, I guess I can
Half-ass
say
it.
that. I didn't want to
Yeah.
half-ass it. Seen those commercials on TV.
Yeah.
I didn't want to half-ass it. I want to do it right when I do get involved in an event. So,
Yeah.
Jodie, we will talk next year
Yeah.
and try to get the ball rolling on that a little sooner.
We'll try
rather
to
than
give it
later.
some. We'll try to give it some plenty of attention in the next week or so as we build up into it as well. Just to, again, we want events that are happening in the region to have success, and if there's something that we can do to help promote that, then it's obviously
Well, we
important
know
to us.
we can. That's the thing. Like we
Right.
know when big events like this happen, and we get involved, that we do have a pretty loyal following. We do have a pretty large reach,
Yeah.
and we know that we can help build these things up, and get some attention. So,
Related to that,
yeah.
I actually gonna mention something related to that. Okay, so this week I had a post up talking about the highest green fees and public
Oh
green fees in
God, yeah,
Ontario.
I did read it.
Oh my God, the emails that I ended up getting like yesterday after the
From
newsletter went out.
the courses you put on the
No, no,
list.
no, 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 no. They're fine.
Am I going to
They know
get
how much.
sued?
No, no, no. They're
Okay.
fine. They know how much their green fees are. I mean, that's what their green fees are, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's it is what it is. It's stated there. There's no opinion on it.
No.
Whether it's value or not, that's up to the golfer or whatever. But I had to change the list because there was one in particular that a lot of people were mentioning that said, "Hey, you should check out this golf course. Its green fee is X." So it's at the top of the list now. But just want to thank all the people that reached out from like all over the place, just to add into things. And I didn't hear anything negative from anybody about that, because a lot of people are like, "Hey, that golf course is, that's good value, like TPC, it's like you're playing on a PGA Tour course for whatever, a couple $100. Again, it's relative to entertainment and things like that. Golf courses are free to charge whatever they want
For sure.
and provide the value. And saying it's the highest is no different than if I said, what's the lowest green fee? It's not critical of it in any way. It's just stating a fact more than anything. But it was just interesting to see the emails and how quickly people responded and said, oh, hey, look, Ontario is a big spot. It's hard to find out what the green fees are for, all 800 golf courses in Ontario.
Yeah.
So it was like doing the research as much as possible. And it just so happened I forgot this one golf course that all of a sudden decided to up their green fee by a lot. I don't know what the reasoning was behind it. But
so they could get to the top of your list.
I guess maybe that's what they decided to do or whatever. But, and, I tried to research a little bit on their website and see what the extra was, because I mean, some golf courses do things like Wooden Sticks is great. They do they're on that list, but they also,
well, they still offer like a lunch or
you get a meal with that. Yeah. And so there's other extras that you get within that. So again, if you look at the price, it's like, what's the value? It's what do you get that's based on that, right? And some other ones do that, but it's just always funny when you see a price and you're like, okay, what do I get for that? And it's like, hey, you get to play here. Okay, that's fine or whatever. But like I said, I just wanted to thank all the people that took the time to email. It was quite funny as soon as the newsletter went out, it was literally within minutes that emails started rolling in and people go, hey, you should check out this one. So they definitely paid attention to it for sure. So some of the times people like listicles. They like those little things with lists and stuff like that. I don't necessarily love them, but I thought it was just interesting because it was based on a question somebody had asked about the value of going and playing, TPC Sawgrass, and those are that golf course is 3 times higher than the highest course on that Ontario list.
TPC Sawgrass is kind of like one of those bucket list courses that you do.
Yeah,
and so you kind of pay. It's like when we went down there, there was 3 of us. I paid the green fee.
which
for
is
the
a
three
third
us
of
to play.
which is a third of what it is now.
Yeah,
So
and
which is
and
insane.
I paid it because we were there, and the opportunity was there to play it, and we knock it off the list, 16, 17, 18, all that kind of deal. But would I go back and pay that kind of money to play it again? Nah.
No,
The bucket list, it's off the bucket list. I wouldn't do it twice, not for that kind of money. It's too much money. In my opinion.
But again, that's it's exactly it. That's for some people they might think, oh, that's
but
good
if you
value,
got bucket loads of it,
sure,
if I had endless buckets of money, I wouldn't care how much it costs to play if I wanted to play the golf course. But
and if that's their business model, then they're more than welcome to it. So I mean, if a golf course, if a golf course can get the revenue that they need, the rounds they want, they satisfy their business model, then they're welcome to charge whatever they want.
For sure, for sure. Okay.
Alrighty.
Great interview with Jodie. Awesome.
Thank you.
But we're going to be done for this week.
We are.
I just want to say flagstick.com shootout coming up in July 12th and 13th at Smuggler's Glen Golf Course down in the Gananoque area. We're nearly half full. It is a smaller field event. We got a little bit of a spike in entry fees, and then it kind of fizzled out a little bit. We're half full, and we're about a little over a month away. Don't wait. Like honestly, I'm being serious here, and I know not everybody that's going to play is listening to the podcast, but don't wait. No. This is going to be a great event. Great registration package with our sponsor Cobra Puma, and great venue, meal. Everything is just top notch. This is.
And the venue's even better because I just did a post because they just had a drone shot of the new 9th tee, and I got out. I walked a whole 3 holes. I was out on 10, 11, 9, and I checked out the new tee box there. There's a new tee box on 11. There's a whole bunch of like renovations that they've done, and they're just amazing. And the course is just mint. So it really is. And I know there's a lot of people that love the golf course. I know there's a lot of people that have had this golf course on their list for a while, that they've like, this is on my bucket list. Well, here's a great chance to play it. Yeah. In an environment that also provides some return to you without even, so it provides a competitive environment, registration, a good social time with a lot of good players and good people. You get to hang out with us. Is that all right? That's okay. We'll make it fun.
Sure.
It just adds to it. And, you're right. They're great hosts as well. So, I mean, do not hesitate.
All right, so that's our little plug there. We're out of here for a week. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Celtic Golf Center, presenting sponsor this week, TaylorMade Golf, introducing the all-new QI35 drivers, TaylorMade speed, max forgiveness, and a new level of fitting to give you more distance from more of the face. Get QI35 fit today and unlock another level for your game at tailormadegolf.ca. Well, I sure hope that you have been enjoying hearing and watching what we've been giving you. Be sure to follow us across our social media networks, Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell, make sure that you never miss a single episode. Get over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered every single day, and subscribe to the newsletter, Flagstick Digest, delivered to your inbox 3 times a week. That's how you stay in touch. But as always, appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, I am Jeff Botter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.